Well, good morning and welcome back to another week on the allotment. And apologies for not posting last weekend. My mother told me off. But we had an unexpected visit from my daughter and her fiance, which was lovely. We had a great day on the Sunday, but it meant I was too busy to do this. And that's fine. But back on the plot today, this bank holiday weekend, and for a bank holiday weekend the weather's lovely. In fact, that road is getting quite busy already and it's 6:15. I got up here in the dark, nice and early, and I've spent the last hour or so watering as much as I can while it's still quite cool, and I shall carry on when I've done this. Yeah, a busy week apart from last weekend. My van broke down again. It's done 130 odd thousand miles. I've had it, well, it's a 2005 plate, so it's to be expected. It's like me, it's been around the track a few times and it's getting worn out. Anyway, the other news this week is I've opened an Instagram account. I can't believe I'm even saying that, but my daughter's been on at me for some time saying it would help the channel. I remain to be convinced, but anyway, you won't be surprised to hear it's called Hanley Plotter Allotment, and that leads me nicely into a hello to Evie and Jane, who follow my daughter on Instagram, I think, and she introduced them to my channel. So welcome along to both of you. Good luck with your vegetables, Jane, and I'm not sure my channel's going to be any help, but it's not completely useless. It can be used as a bad example. So actually, I should just say, I was talking to my wife yesterday about this, that I am fairly confident now that obviously you never stop learning in life, as well as in allotments. I'm fairly confident now that this is my 5th summer. I know what I'm doing. And of course, like I say, we all make mistakes. Even the great Terry Walton, who's had an allotment, I think, for about 40 years, even he says he gets things wrong occasionally. So, but this is definitely my best year. It's going very well. I'm very happy with the complete layout, which leads me on nicely, and I'll show you later how I'm getting on with that bit of ground down the bottom. I think on the last video I showed you I cut down the redundant blackcurrant bush, which has never produced decent fruit, and which I inherited when I got that extra bit of ground at the bottom. Well, I decided to take it out and cut my losses, so that's gone, and I'm busy squaring up that bed and re-channeling the ditch that drains my plot in the winter. Oh, and somebody, one of my subscribers asked me what these are. Obviously they go on my canes, and I can put the net across and they stop some catching, and also of course protect your eyes if you inadvertently bend over and near the cane. They're a fantastic bit of kit, and I found them on YouTube. They're on Amazon. They're called rebar protection caps. Rebar as in reinforcing or reinforcement bar that goes into cement and concrete. So you'll be able to find those on Amazon if anybody's interested. So yeah, welcome along. Let's have a look at the plot. Well, it's just gone 6:30, sunrise on the plot. So let's swing you around and start the tour. So those who follow me will know that I'm hoping to gain this extra bit of ground, and that's been covered to suppress the weeds, and it'll stay like that for a year, and I will plant next year's pumpkins into holes in that plastic. Here was where the the blackcurrant bush was. You can see that's where the main route was, and the ditch went around in a sort of a semicircle and joined back on down here. So all I've done is I've dug out the roots. I had a bonfire at the back there last week, burnt it all, and I'm busy sort of just tidying that up. I'm going to rake it, and there seems to be a resident pheasant on one of the other plots, and I think because I've exposed all this, he's come over to have a dust bath. So yeah, that's all got to be tidied up, and this rhubarb moved in line with the other 3 plants. However, as you know, I like to keep things improving all the time, and with that in mind, I've edged this bed. It needs a bit of hoeing today and raking, but I'm very happy with how that looks. That's ready for whatever I do with it, and now's the sort of time to be planning next year's crops. I have walked round the plot with my paper plan and just confirmed what was in each bed this year so that I get my rotation right. So, moving along. The parsnips are looking great. I won't know till obviously I pull one out how they've done, but the top growth looks promising. This josterberry needs a bit of pruning back. It's impeding on the path, so I shall do that when it's dormant in the winter. I want to talk a little bit more in a minute about the compost heaps and my plans, but yeah, the tomatoes are really, you know, infested now with blight. However, I have been picking. Some of the tomatoes have looked fine, and Cheryl's blitzed them into sauces, and they're frozen in the freezers at home. And you know, so that's fine, but these plants really have been ravaged and ruined. So I need to try a different. So that was Mountain Magic, which is not obviously blight resistant. So I need to try a different one next year. And I think Crimson Crush is the variety I'm going to choose, but more on that later in the year. A little bit of good news: the kale, now it's under that netting, is slowly but surely starting to recover. Interestingly, look, those are more Mountain Magic tomatoes over there, and there's not a bit of blight on them, and they're, you know, 15 feet from the others. I don't even begin to pretend to understand. Anyway, these sunflowers have been a joy. I absolutely love them. You know, how can you not like that? They are beasts, mind. Up there. And I watched an American homestead video the other day about how they, yeah, look, that comes off, and then those seeds underneath can be picked out and eaten, or kept for birdseed. Well, I will leave some for the birds, but I'm definitely going to try and harvest them. Moving on, these leeks, although they've got rust, as my leeks always do, they're definitely thickening up, and it's all looking very good. The squash beds are just fantastic. I mean, they just don't want to be restrained. So that's butternut mashed potato, and you know, the chicken wire is barely containing those plants. They're overflowing, which, you know, I don't mind. It's lovely to see, as is the case here with the 2 pumpkin beds, which means it's very difficult to move around there. You've got to be careful where you put your feet. Haven't really looked that closely at these cauliflower and calabrese plants. Doesn't seem to be any heads forming. Maybe I'm a bit late with those. But anyway, don't know if you can see, there's a whopper of a pumpkin down there. They are quite big. Anyway, they've all got to go to the farm shop, so it doesn't really matter. Talking about whoppers, the absolute centre, both geographically and emotionally of my plot is this arch. And it says they can grow up to 1 metre long. Well, I think that's well over 1 metre. And this one's curled round and has gone back into the arch, and then it expanded and blocked itself in. So yeah, courgette tromboncini, fantastic. More leeks that don't seem to have bolted, so we will get some leeks after all. Mind yourself as you go through the arch. The sweet peas have got to come out. I'll probably do that today. I've cut all these runners off once on the strawberries. Looks like I've got to do it again. Beetroot, you can see the gaps now in the beetroot bed appearing as we're picking and eating. And Cheryl kindly did just boil some for me the other day, and I had it on my salad and I loved it. You know, it doesn't need to be put into balsamic vinegar, as is the way we usually have them, and I shall eat more of them that way. They were absolutely lovely. That's the butternut, Waltham butternut bed over there, and again it's sprawling out, it's going down on the path between me and my neighbour, which makes it difficult to cut the grass, but again I don't mind. It won't be long before I can get them out. Onions. Where do I keep my onions? And we'll come back to that in a minute. These are the autumn raspberries. Look, it's the first year I've had them on the plot, new plants, and it doesn't look like they're going to fruit, but you know, an investment in next year. The second sowing of beetroot is coming on. I've just watered them. And the courgettes, again, I haven't been up since Friday, and today's Sunday, and you know, I'd had a look earlier in the gloom, and I've got an absolute monster. And that wasn't, you know, that was a cigar size on Friday. Look at it, in 2 days. Beast. The runner beans, I've only got the 4 TPs of those, and they've been fantastic. I shall pick, I've got a list. Cheryl's given me a list, a shopping list of what she wants me to take home tonight, so some of those will be going. What else have I got? I've got cucumber plants. These are Market More. I've had a couple of them off the ground, and then the frame over there, one of them is called Suprina. Lovely, and we're juicing a lot. Again, you get an absolute glut of cucumbers, so you wait all year and then they all come along, you know, 10 a day. But we've discovered that if you put them through the juicer, you know, it's just water really, slightly off tasting water, and you put something else in with it and it's fine. So if you can't eat your cucumbers, you can drink them. The pond has been tidied up, and then the shed area is as neat and tidy as always, I hope. And I'm now picking the celery. I'm not taking out the whole plant, I'm just picking the thicker stalks. What a taste compared to the shop bought bland stuff. You know, homegrown celery is a completely different taste. In fact, when you brush against it, when you walk down here, you get the smell come up of it. It's fantastic. The perpetual spinach, one of the big successes of the year, and we're making little ice cubes out of that when I blitz it through the NutriBullet. So yeah, it's all going extremely well. One of my undoubted successes this year has been the onions, and that, you know, is wonderful. You know, I'm guessing I've got over 300 onions, so we're not going to go short. Of course, that all depends on how well they store, but it creates a problem. You know, we only live in a modest semi-detached house with a modest sized garden, so storage, drying them out is an issue enough, but storage is going to be a bit of a problem. So I've got some here. Luckily the weather's very dry and hot at the moment, so I've left these red onions, Red Baron, lying on the ground for about a week now, but they've got to go somewhere. And then let's have a look at home. On top of the wood store is our garlic being kept for this year. And then I'm drying out onions everywhere, even in the shed and the greenhouse. On this new Instagram account I've got, I intersperse, I've started at the very beginning of the allotment when the very first day I walked onto this plot, and I'm slowly with each post, you know, working up through the progression of the improvement of it. But I'm also interspersing it with some of my old canoeing photos, because, you know, I haven't done it much recently, obviously because of all this nonsense with COVID, but you know, we've had, my dad and I and my children and even my wife, we've had some fantastic trips, multi-day trips. One of the problems when you're canoeing a river is where you put the vehicle to do the shuttle. Do you leave your vehicle where you put in on the river and then you paddle down and you've got to come back, or do you drop the gear, take the van down, and so on? The shuttle is always the difficult part. In Scotland, which is where the majority of our trips have been, because the access laws are so much better, and they've got, you know, a form of wilderness, not true wilderness, but, you know, wonderful rugged countryside. I've never had a problem. People have picked me up. In fact, I was walking, I think the furthest I've ever walked, thumbing, is about a mile, and then this lady pulled up in a Range Rover and gave me a lift. And we're driving along down this wild country road, and I said, look, I hope you don't mind me saying, that's very brave of you to pick up a bloke in the middle of nowhere on your own. And she said, do you know what, there's nothing but nice people out in the country. All the bad people are in the towns and cities. And of course she's right, generally, I guess. But yeah, I've had nothing but good experiences, and most of that has been in Scotland. Even with my accent, I've had some remarkable tales of people doing genuinely kind things for me and my dad when we've got into situations on rivers and so on. Anyway, we were canoeing in Wales, and we were going from Builth down the River Wye, and I can't quite remember where I was getting out, but I left my dad with the canoeing gear in Builth, near the car park by the river, and I drove off about an hour's driving, and I said to him, you know, I'll thumb a lift, I'll be back in no time. Anyway, I started walking, and I always take my paddle, so hopefully I'm walking very close to the river. People understand what I'm doing. So I stuck my thumb out and I started walking. Well, I reckon I walked about 6 or 7 miles and not a sniff of a lift. Anyway, I got to this bus stop, and there was a little old lady in the bus stop, and I asked her, or we got talking, I said, I've been trying to thumb a lift and I've had absolutely no luck whatsoever. And she pointed up on the hill and she said, you see that big house up there? That is a male-only lunatic asylum, and they let the fellas out occasionally on day release. She said, you were never going to get a lift round here, my love. It's me walking along. Why won't people give me a lift? You know, I've got the friendliest face you'll ever see, with a great big piece of wood in my hand. Oh well, cheers. Right, a few words on compost heaps, and I know they're not the most exciting subject, but when it comes to allotments, they are absolutely fundamental and critical to the success of any allotment. You have got to put back into the earth as much richness and goodness as you can, and compost heaps are the best way of doing it. Now, what I've learned is they need to be as big as you can make them. The cubic meterage makes a real big difference when it comes to heating them internally and breaking down the plant material as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So these are as big as I can make them. And the second point along with that is that whatever you put on the compost heaps, it should be as small and as broken up as you can manage. And that's where I'm going wrong. A lot of the stuff that I'm putting on, cabbage leaves and things like that, that's fine. They'll break down nice and easy. But when it comes to things like sweet pea plants and when all the squashes and the pumpkin plants are finished and so on, I'd normally just heap them in there and let them get on with it. What I've decided to do is change that approach slightly, and I've cleared this bed out, or this bay, and what I'm going to do is all my compost material that's going into a bed, into a compost bin, is going in here first, and I'm going to use my mower, and I'm going to use the lawnmower to chop it all up, and then from the grass feed bag on the mower, that will go into the empty compost heap, and that I hope will produce better compost in a quicker time scale. Anyway, just my thoughts. Now I admit that there's quite a bit of considerable extra work involved in that. Getting the mower out, setting it up, keep agitating the stuff so the mower can pick it up. But if I can persevere, I think that's going to make, yeah, look at that. I mean, it's almost compost already. That can't fail to decompose into usable allotment compost quicker. So, yeah, I mean, there's a tiny bit of soil involved in that because that was off the roots of some other plants, but I think that's got to be the way forward, and I'm going to try my best to persevere with that method. Well, as part of my constant campaign to inform, educate and entertain, I thought I'd read a little bit from this How Not to Die book. And before you all groan and go, oh, I'm not interested, it relates to allotments and what we grow. Bear with me, give me a minute and see if you find this interesting. And it relates to berries. The case for berries has been made throughout this book. Berries offer potential protection against cancer, a boost to the immune system, a guard for the liver and brain. An American Cancer Society study of nearly 100,000 men and women found that those who ate the most berries appeared significantly less likely to die of cardiovascular disease, the biggest killer. Wait a second, tastes great and may help you live longer. Yes, that's what plant-based eating is all about. Greens are the healthiest vegetables, and berries are the healthiest fruits, in part due to their respective plant pigments. Leaves contain the green pigment chlorophyll, which sets off the firestorm of photosynthesis, so greens have to be packed with antioxidants to deal with the charged, high-energy electrons that are formed. Meanwhile, berries evolved to have bright contrasting colours to attract fruit-eating critters to help disperse their seeds, and the same molecular characteristics that give berries such vibrant colours account for some of their antioxidant abilities. Americans, and you can include Brits in this, Americans eat a lot of pale and beige foods. White bread, white pasta, white potatoes, white rice. Colourful foods are healthier because they contain antioxidant pigments, whether it's the beta-carotene that makes carrots and sweet potatoes orange, the lycopene, antioxidant pigment that makes tomatoes red, or the anthocyanin pigments that make blueberries blue. The colours are the antioxidants. That knowledge alone should revolutionise your stroll down the produce aisle. Guess which have more antioxidants, red onions or white onions? You don't need to look up the answer. You can see the difference with your own eyes. Indeed, red onions have 76% more antioxidant capacity than white, with yellow onions in between. So given the choice, why buy another white onion ever again? Red cabbage contains 8 times more antioxidants than green cabbage. Pop quiz. Which wipes out more free radicals? Pink grapefruit or regular grapefruit? Granny Smith or Red Delicious? Iceberg lettuce or romaine? Red grapes or green? Yellow or white sweet corn? See, you don't need me to go to the supermarket with you. You can make all these calls yourself. What about a purple-skinned aubergine or a white-skinned aubergine? Well, that's a trick question. Remember, the pigment is the antioxidant, so the colour of the skin doesn't matter if you peel it off. As we learned in chapter 11, that's why you never want to peel apples. It's for the same reason kumquats may be the healthiest citrus fruit, since you can eat them rind and all. I have no idea what a kumquat is. Is that an American name and we have a British name? I don't know. Shop for the reddest strawberries, the blackest of blackberries, the most scarlet tomato, the darkest green broccoli you can find. The colours are the anti-aging, anti-cancer, antioxidants. Antioxidant content is one of the reasons I've singled out berries for special treatment. They are second only to herbs and spices as the most antioxidant-packed food category. As a group, they average nearly 10 times more antioxidants than other fruits and vegetables and exceed 50 times more than animal-based foods. Nearly there. The antioxidant power of berries. As with other green light foods, he has green light, amber light and red light, which is self-explanatory. The healthiest variety is the one you'll eat most often, but if you have no particular preference, why not put the berry with the most antioxidants in your morning oatmeal? Thanks to a study that compared more than 100 different berries and berry products, we now know which one that is. America's favourite fruits are apples and bananas, with antioxidant power of about 60 units and 40 units respectively. Mangoes, the preferred fruit around the world, have even more antioxidant punch at around 110 units. It makes sense when you consider how much more colourful they are on the inside. But none of these fruits are a match for berries. Strawberries weigh in at about 310 units per 120 grams, cranberries at 330, raspberries at 350, blueberries at 380, and blackberries at a whopping 650 units. Above all these are exotic types you can pick wild in the Arctic tundra, but in terms of what you can find readily in the shops, it's blackberries for the win. I'm happy as long as you're eating a serving of any type of berry every day, but in terms of antioxidant content, choosing blackberries over strawberries appears to give you twice the bang for your berry. Now, I'm quite lucky here, it's a coincidence, but I happen to like blackberries and I've got them growing all over the plot and we put them on our breakfast every morning. But when you come across a chapter like that or a paragraph like that and you read it, it just reinforces what you're doing is right. Powerful stuff. On my little list of vegetables to bring home, is potatoes. Now we had 10 tubs like this, 30 litres I think they are, or is it 6, I don't know, tubs, in the garden with Charlotte new potatoes, and they were very disappointingly small and not many of them. I mean, we've been eating them now since the beginning of June, and we've made some potato salad out of them, we've boiled them and had them on our salads. They're very tasty, they're very nice, but there's not many of them. You know, it's a plus and minus. They're complete, every single potato was clean, there was no wireworm, no slug damage, but they were very small, and I'm sure that's because they're in tubs. Although I see other YouTubers, they pull out giants from these things. Well, anyway, this is my main crop. I've got Sarpo Axona and Sarpo Mira. Both lots were planted on the 12th of April. So this is well within the time scale of having main crop potatoes. And Cheryl wants some potatoes today, so I'm going to see what I've got. I have no idea what to expect. So let's have a look. Well, they're not what you'd expect from main crop, but I have to say, with what I grew for new potatoes, I'm quite happy with those actually. I won't bore you with it, I'll dig through it and I'll show you what I've got at the end. Well, that has to be the most disappointing potato crop I've ever grown. That's it, from a main crop tub. I'd have been better off eating the seed potatoes. And these two are rotten. I don't know what caused that. Maybe it's because I've put them in those sump trays so that water's been anyway, I don't know. But I am really disappointed. I mean, I've learned, you know, you have to ride with the waves, and that's not right, is it? Anyway, I can't remember what the phrase is now, but roll with the punches. Roll with the punches, not ride with the waves. Anyway, you've got to take the rough with the smooth. I avoid cliches like the plague. Anyway, that's it. I mean, there's no holes in them, so they're all usable. I think Cheryl wants to make mash, so I might have to might have to empty another tub. But anyway, you know, some years things work, some years things don't. Never mind. Well, that's everything as per my wife's shopping list. So, very happy to be taking that home. Wonderful crop. Well, it's mid-afternoon again, about 3 o'clock. Good day. Feel like I've achieved a lot. I mean, if you looked at the plot you wouldn't really notice, but I can see it. Lots of hoeing. Tying in the climbing crops, harvesting, yeah. A good day and a nice harvest to take home. It's a lovely thing to do all that work and then have something to show for it and take home. I haven't forgotten about one of the subscribers asked about juicing beetroot, and I shall do that in the next video. I've picked the beetroot and I'm taking it home today, and I'll do a juice in the morning. I hope there was something of interest there for you, and I shall be back next weekend, I think, unless any surprises come my way. But thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I shall see you next week. Bye for now.